have one of the world's rarest cancers, and in honor of this Sarcoma Awareness Month, I'm just gonna share a little bit about my whole story because it's pretty fucking crazy. So my specific diagnosis is something called synovialsarcoma, which, like I said, is a very, very rare form of cancer. It could be either bone or soft tissue. I have soft tissue sarcoma, but for reference, I think the biggest media representation is Augustus Waters in The Fault in Our Stars. He has osteosarcoma, that's why he had that amputated leg. I'm currently 23 years old, but I was diagnosed back when I was 19. Between the ages of 19 to now, I have had cancer a total of 3 times. Sarcoma in general is a pretty aggressive cancer. Mine in specific is also very aggressive. I am stage 3 because my cancer has spread locally, but it has not metastasized to the lungs. For the most part, when it reaches that stage, it becomes uncurable. I had a very late diagnosis. I started experiencing my symptoms when I was around 16. It started as a tingling in my fingers, which I thought was carpal tunnel for a really long time. Eventually, that tingling became a very mild swelling in my elbow, and then that turned into pain. So basically, by the time I was diagnosed, I was experiencing like regular spikes of 9 out of 10. My tumor was located on my median nerve, which isn't the funny bone, but it is a nerve closely related to it. So for reference, imagine someone sticking a needle into your funny bone. That's what it felt like all of the time. I actually ended up attempting to take my life a few months before I was diagnosed because I had reached a point where I could not drive. I could not sleep. I really did not feel like I was a person that could exist anymore. When I had been 18, I went to a doctor who did not do extensive testing. I got an x-ray, and unfortunately, x-rays don't do a good job at picking up soft tissue sarcoma because x-rays measure bone for the most part. So naturally, when that x-ray came back clear, I was diagnosed with crazy woman disease. Not actually, like he didn't say that, but it was very studiously put of like, I have anxiety in my chart. So the suggestion was I could be experiencing psychosomatic symptoms caused by like stress. So it was essentially crazy woman disease. It wasn't until a few months after I turned 19 that my tumor was finally discovered by a orthopedic surgeon who I found in my state. He had sent me off for an MRI. It came back. I went in and he literally said, quote, "I'm so fucking sorry nobody took you seriously." And I was like, literally nothing you say after that is going to be good. And it wasn't. I had a 5.4 centimeter, so like roughly golf ball sized tumor on my median nerve, which no longer exists, clearly. My first time around with cancer was relatively easy. I had 2 surgeries. I also went through 30 rounds, 25 or 30 rounds of radiation therapy, which made my skin fucking like fall off. It was disgusting. But anyways, after those 2 surgeries and radiation, I was declared in remission. So I spent the next year like traumatized and genuinely like not knowing what to do next. At the year mark of my remission, like at my year scans, they discovered there was something growing on my median nerve again, which I got biopsied. That was single-handedly the most traumatic medical experience I've had so far. I'm not even going to begin to describe it. So of course that biopsy confirmed that my cancer was back, just like spreading in that general area of my elbow. And so this time around they suggested chemo. So I got my port installed, which is just a little medical device used for injecting medication. Shortly before my 21st birthday, I started my first round of chemo. So historically, my chemo has consisted of 2 main drugs called ifosfamide and doxorubicin. And doxorubicin is notoriously known as like the harshest chemo drug out there. It is like the strongest available chemo drug. So unfortunately, doxorubicin is the gold standard chemo drug for sarcoma, and it is called the Red Devil because it is bright red, it looks like Kool-Aid, and it is the devil. Stay tuned and follow for a part 2 because I have so much more to talk about. That was not even the craziest cancer experience. Obviously, a 3rd time eventually came around and there's a lot to talk about, so